Welcome to the Steller Productions Podcast with Jacob and Rowan. Also starring our special guest today, Darwin Nesheim.
That's it. Second one.
Second one?
Yep. That's
all right. How you doing today, Darwin?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys?
We're pretty good.
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Good. I'm glad to hear.
Nice. Well, today is our first actual episode of recording, although we may have changed the schedule up a little bit and did another episode without Darwin in it, but
Yeah, they're gonna be out of order, so we're gonna have like our pilot where we introduce ourselves and the one with Darwin.
yeah. So this is in the past, but it will be released in the future.
Exciting time travel stuff.
Yeah, really fun stuff. Anyway, with our special guest today, Darwin Nesheim. That's it.
Got it.
Yep. My good friend, good buddy.
That's right.
We may have Chad Nesheim as well later.
Hopefully at some point.
Hopefully at some point we can get him on. But yeah, for today it's you, buddy.
Yeah.
So how's life? How you doing?
Life's going pretty good. You know, tried to sell a Pokemon card. They didn't buy it.
Yeah, you were a previous Steller student.
Yep.
For what, 7th grade to senior year?
Yep. All the way through.
Yeah. So let's start off with that. How did your previous years at Steller go?
So I really liked the Steller experience, and you know, starting out, it started a little bit rough. As I went through, starting about 9th grade, I really started to get into the rhythm of things. I really embraced passages. Those were a lot of fun for me. You know, just keep working through it. I had a lot of fun.
What sort of passages did you do?
So I did the typical 3 passages. I decided not to go for more. My first passage I did was a robotics class where I would teach Steller students the 2-week intensive on robotics that I had taught myself previously in the year. My second and third passage I did at the same time, which was a genetic engineering passage where I took a culture of E. coli and then genetically engineered them to be sustainable in a more acidic environment than they would typically be able to. And then the passage I did at the same time as that was one that I was not quite as happy about. I did it with Brian, and it was a general relativity passage where I just wanted to kind of explore that a little bit. I fell personally a little short on that one, and I wish I could explore it a little more, but I'm majoring in math right now, so I can hopefully do that on my free time.
Yeah, so with that major in math, I guess we can move on to your college life.
Yeah, for sure.
So what has it been, 2 years since you've left Steller and you've gone off to, what college was it?
Oregon State University.
You're majoring in math there.
Yep.
Tell us what the community's like there. How's it going?
So I guess it's 2 parts. So I started off at Oregon State as a mechanical engineering major. That wasn't ever something I really wanted to have the profession of. I just wanted the skills. And I decided that the university focused too heavily on the profession side of things, and so I decided to take a step back, and what I really liked about it was the math, and so I decided to pursue math. I would say college and Steller are very different and yet very much the same. Steller has a big label on responsible freedom. However, that's not quite how things end up all the time. You can take it that way if you want. However, it's not normally driven unless it's self-driven. And so having that as time management coming from that responsible freedom was super valuable for me in college, because that's the hardest part, is just managing your time effectively. Never go to sleep or never wake up or something, and it's just going to be awful.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So kind of on that topic, what's like your average day like when you wake up? Like how long are you working on homework and such?
Sure. So I would wake up, on the good days, I would wake up at probably around 8 o'clock, go take a shower, get some breakfast, and then I had classes at 9, so I would get to class probably around 8:50. And then the classes are pretty short, normally 50 minutes. And so I would be in class, and then I could have classes back to back. I would typically have anywhere from 2 to 4 classes a day, which doesn't sound too bad. It's really not. And during the times between classes, I would do homework. Homework would normally take me, I'd say the most I would have was 2 hours a day, but that was pretty rare. And I would say on average 30 minutes to an hour of homework a day.
Oh, okay.
So not too bad. And most of that comes with writing or something, and that's just a lot of busy work.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard like horror stories about several hours of homework and all that stress.
Yeah.
But
I think it's definitely several hours of studying, but that's only right before finals week or something where you have something big coming up. Otherwise, it's more relaxed.
Right.
So so Steller kind of prepares you for that kind of situation, but not exactly like the whole mechanics of college, just more of time management.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are there any social skills that you've learned from Steller that help you in college?
Public speaking, that was a big one. I had a couple classes where public speaking was required as presentations and things in front of the auditorium or whatnot. And so having that public speaking class, I remember having it with Bob, and I also had debate with Bob. Both of those were super valuable because one of the formats I had to do was a debate format for my speech. And then I've had 4 classes now where public speaking was required, and being comfortable in front of an audience is invaluable.
So with the progressing and all that, going into a math major, about what, 4 years or maybe more?
Yep, I'm looking at 4.
Yeah. So where are you planning to see yourself in around like 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years. I am at the 5-year mark. I hope to be starting my graduate studies. It's my goal to get my PhD, hopefully, and working maybe as an actuary between then, just to get some extra cash. Research is what I would really like to do. I just like tinkering, and tinkering with math is still tinkering.
Yeah.
So how does it feel coming back to the school?
In my mind, nothing has changed, but I know that's not going to be true. Like, I know the dynamics are different. It's just, I like to think that they're not, because I had such a good experience at Steller. But I do notice little things are different, like Rose's new relo.
Right.
Fantastic that the kids aren't exposed to asbestos anymore. However, I do miss the art in the relo. So heads up to someone to come do the art in Rose's relo. I see one thing, but maybe something more than the cool little window into Mexico. If I had to guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess what we should have started off with is, kind of tell us about yourself and like for the newcomers of Steller, who you are exactly, because to me, like, you were a pretty big influence on Steller when I was just starting out, and I kind of saw like what you did as a reflection of Steller, and it just kind of like influenced the way people would behave and how people would work. And so could you tell, like, I don't know, the new coming 7th graders about what they'll experience during their time here, and maybe some 8th graders that didn't see you last year?
That means a lot coming from you, Rowan. Thank you for that. And what I would say, really take advantage of passages. The teachers will listen to you if you want to use your time a little differently than traditional schools would let you. So take the leap and just take your own interest to the next level. Nothing's really holding you back except for your own whatever, fill in the blank. So yeah, just go do it. Don't work too hard either. Enjoy life.
Yeah.
A 3.0 GPA is going to be better than a 4.0 as you lived, and it's something you can put on a resume. Just have fun.
In 7th grade, I was really not familiar with what passages were. I didn't exactly understand it. So then it was kind of an intimidating thing about high school for me. So I'm glad that you talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And passages have changed up a little bit this year.
Really?
It hasn't changed too much in the sense of like you doing what you want to do and your teachers helping you out, but it's definitely it's changed to where your advisors are now your passage teachers, or your advisors for your passage. But we're out here in a 6-period conference room with Rosa, and so she's been a great help too. She's been helping us out, so it's really a good experience. It's a lot better than having a designated time period, because you can really manage yourself, and it's not taking up any space. You get your full 1 through 6 periods without having that one slot of passages, and now it's a 7th period class. You get to kind of manage where you want it.
But you can take a conference period so that you don't have to take like 7 classes.
Okay. It's definitely changed a little bit.
Okay.
And here, Chad Nesheim has decided to join us. How you doing, Chad?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So you're currently at college right now in Idaho, right? Where are you?
Yes, I am, Rowan. It's beautiful and sunny over here, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
What about the Alaskan way?
I sure do wish it was colder, though.
Yeah.
It's like a prolonged vacation.
So for For those who don't know, Darwin and Chad are two brothers. One is actually here in Alaska right now, and again, one is in Idaho. We're also going to ask Chad a couple questions. So it's only been a year for you since you've graduated high school, or not even a year. But so what's college like after Steller?
So I think that Steller really did prepare me, even though I didn't think so at the time, for the preliminary parts of college, because a lot of the college here that I've been experiencing, it's just like a Steller class. There's basically no difference. Like difficulty level and everything, it's pretty spot on. But coming from such a small school and then going to like comparatively such a large school, it's wild the first week for sure. But after that, it's definitely started to calm down. You kind of get the grip on reality, you know?
Yeah. So Darwin was also talking about his experience at college, after Steller, and saying that like time management was definitely a big part that Steller taught him. Would you say the same for yourself?
I would definitely say the same. There's a lot of studying in all of my classes, except for mostly two of them. But you really have to ration out time to do everything and do all your homework, because no one's going to really force you to do homework. You just have to sit down and do it.
Are you considering any jobs while you're in college, or like internships?
Yeah. For my major, internships are pretty hard to get because you have to have a lot of math under my belt to be a math major and get a math job and everything. But I was definitely thinking there's a couple good like jobs for students on campus, but there's also a lot of restaurants nearby that I might try to get a job with, maybe second semester or next year. But this year I'm just trying to focus in and kind of get anchored down for studying and everything.
So just to clarify, what were you majoring in?
I'm majoring in math for actuarial science. So it's business and statistics, basically.
I see. And are you also going for your PhD then?
No, I'm planning on just getting a Bachelor of Science and then maybe a double major if I'm able to get one close enough to statistics as well. So it'd be actuarial major and statistics. But time will tell.
So I'll ask you the same question that I asked Darwin. Like, where are you going to see yourself in about 5 to 10 years? What are you planning to do with the rest of your life, and what are you trying to achieve?
All right, those are some good questions. By 5 to 10 years, I hope to be at least, starting a serious job within my major. That would be the dream, of course. It would probably be at some health insurance company doing statistics for them, or maybe financial research for them. But like where I would be living, I don't know. It all depends on who's hiring, like in which cities, because I'm not really anchored to any point in the U.S. at this time, so I'd be happy traveling for anything at this point. Yeah.
How's that mixture been over there for you, Darwin?
Oh, yeah. So I came in and I found a little teddy bear cup. It has 4 teddy bears on it, and they're all holding little I Love Florida flags. I'm guessing they got it from Florida. And it had this bubbling dark mixture in it. And it wasn't half bad. I learned it was just grape soda, Dr. Pepper, and then kind of knockoff brand ginger ale.
It's Canada Dry.
So
that's not knockoff brand.
I'm Verner's
Yeah.
for life.
What?
So
Schweppes, man.
Oh, no.
2 disappointments in a room.
Schweppes is where it's at.
It's okay.
I think we need to do a taste test.
Ginger ale is for weak-willed people.
Tonic
Go
water.
for ginger beer.
Tonic water is where
Tonic
it's at.
water. Tonic water is also very good.
Oh.
I do like tonic water.
I love tonic water. I drink that from the bottle. Like,
You have to have it for the quinine. It
Exactly.
raises your body temperature.
I just drink it.
That too.
I don't even care about whatever you said. I
Quinine?
just want to drink it.
Wait, so just to be clear about what tonic water is, it's just bubbly water, no flavoring. Is that?
It's like
No.
club soda with some lemon and lime.
Oh,
Is what it tastes
Yeah,
like to
it's-
me.
so like the LaCroix stuff?
No, it's more flavorful than that. It's sweet. It's sweet like a normal soda.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're thinking of club soda, I think, which is just carbonated water.
Which is also how I described it, but like it's because again, it's club soda with sugar and like a little bit of lemon.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll
Doesn't sound good.
we'll
but-
get you a cup of it sometime. And
maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
We'll like talk about what we're drinking. Sounds exciting.
So, one thing is, Jacob and I haven't really decided on what we truly want to talk about yet. Again, this is our first actual recording, so it's going to be a little while until we get the hang of this sort of thing. Talking to each other in a quiet room outside in a relo gets a little awkward.
No, we'll have a closet soon.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Rosa is creating a closet space for us that we can go hang out in.
And you already do have a podcast name, right?
Yeah, we're the Steller Productions Podcast.
Yeah, it's a rather unfortunate name, and we're going to change it as soon as we can.
I'm never changing. I'm never changing.
Coming
Guest
into
have
the
input.
closet
I like
podcast
the
with
idea.
Rowan and Jacob.
Wait, so is that 3 against 1 for like Rowan's podcast?
I'm not
name?
changing it. I've already branded everything.
Hey guys,
Well, it's not just your
my name's
podcast.
Darwin
Rowan.
Nesheim. I'm the guest currently on TPP, the Person Podcast,
SPP.
and I'm really enjoying it.
All right.
We'll have a school vote, and it'll probably be against me. But
Well, okay, yeah. And okay, what happened is Rowan asked me, "Hey, is this name okay?" And I said, "For the time being, we'll change it." And then he made a social media account for us. So
my first plan was to call it Two Teens Talk.
Oh.
And
Kind of like that.
Jacob did not like it, but I loved it. So
I think Two Teens Talk is pretty darn good.
see, yeah, and because I just listen to whatever Jacob says, except for now, he's like,
you never listen to what I
he's
say.
like,
Rowan.
he's like, no, I want to change that. I don't like that name. He was more vulgar than that, but that's what we're gonna say for now. And I was like, all right. So I took about 20 minutes and thought about it. And I didn't really think. I was just like, you know what? Let me design some art and we'll put this name on there. And I was like, here, how's this look? And it was Steller Productions Podcast with our channel art and all that. And just a fun time. And then he's just like, yeah, you know what? That looks good. And I was like, all right. So I made an Instagram, made a Twitter, and now we have a SoundCloud, YouTube, and maybe iTunes. Again, we'll see
All
about
right.
that.
High school's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, we're in our 10th grade year. We got 2 years left.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are going pretty good. I'd say that there's definitely a nice little gap between us and you guys, especially for younger people that are listening to us, the Sevies and the 8th graders.
Don't call them Sevies.
I'm calling
That
them
don't
Sevies.
quite understand who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was basically just saying that you guys could, like, I don't know, tell us about your previous experiences. You were talking about it earlier, but you were talking more about passages. I was saying what, like, kind of introduce both of you, introduce yourselves to the newer students of this school year for 7th graders and stuff. So let's start with you, Darwin.
Sure. So my name's Darwin Nesheim. I attended Steller from 2000 something to 2017. I was here for all 7 years or whatever, 7th grade through 12th grade, whatever that is.
6 years.
Yeah, that.
6 years.
Started out a little rough in my Steller career, but kind of got into the groove of things. I had a lot of fun. If you see someone attractive in the halls, it's me. For these 7th graders, I'm the attractive one.
He's not lying.
Sound good.
Oh, thank you.
Please.
Any attractive person on them. No. I don't know. Do murals, because then they won't need to wonder who this person talking on the podcast is. They can just be like, oh, hey, that's the name I see on the mural every day. So if you really want to make a lasting impression on Steller, do a mural. It can be a passage too, I think, if I'm not wrong about that. It's not
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my advice.
Please do murals in the relo.
Oh, it's so barren.
It's just white in here.
Yeah.
That's it. Paint the roof if you have to. Make it a little more
okay,
colorful. All right, and going on to you, Chad. How's you want to tell us a little bit about your past self and how it started out for you?
Yes, of course, I'd love to. So my name is Chad Nesheim. I am Darwin's little brother by 1 year. For those physical description, you probably won't see me until about winter break. I might come in for a little bit during winter intensives and say hi to everybody. But I'm a lot like Darwin, except for I'm a little bit shorter and a little more blonder. And then, so that's about it. I also started school at Steller Secondary. So that's 7th grade all the way through 12th, and I'm a 2018 graduate, of course. What else is there to say? I mean, school's great. High school's awesome. Love it while you can.
Yeah, we're not prepared.
Okay, Rowan didn't tell me that you were going to be on until lunch.
I
came
a
in
surprise guest because I didn't see him today.
Yeah, no. I walked into
don't have
Becky's room,
classes.
and Rowan's like, "Oh yeah, so we're gonna interview Darwin," and
And maybe Chad.
I knew.
Jacob, as you know, the Nesheim twins come as a package.
That's true.
Right.
We're not actually twins for those of us that are not actually in the inside joke.
Could be.
Yeah.
You guys could not pass as twins. The height difference is large.
Well, they look
We're
the same.
identical twins.
They look the same, but Chad's a little more brown haired.
Am I?
Yeah.
Wait.
No.
No, Darwin's.
My hair is near black. Chad's hair is more of
Chad's
a
is
light
a little
brown.
lighter.
But if it's more brown, then that makes it lighter.
Absolutely, yes.
No, if
that's
it's
what I'm
more
saying.
brown.
What?
Well,
It's brown.
That's what
or
I just
blonde.
said.
As a jerk, it's brown.
Stupid fruit flies, man. They keep flying around me.
so where are you guys hoping to take the podcast? Like, obviously, this one's going to
Yeah.
be pretty rough.
Yeah.
We might end up with 30 minutes of usable audio. So
Okay.
What I've been wanting to see where this goes is just like kind of go around in the community and like see what our community is doing for each other and like go interview people doing their jobs and stuff. I don't know, just kind of get around in the community and like talk to people.
we were gonna put out a question box, or not even really a question box, but just like you could draw stupid cartoons or whatever, and we'll like talk about it. But or you can write serious questions and we'll talk about them.
I don't know.
I think that's a great idea.
I contacted Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Right.
trying to schedule him to
Any
come
guess
onto the
Twitter?
show. Huh?
His Twitter?
No, I emailed him. It was
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow,
I
that's-
can pretend to be Neil deGrasse on Star Talk.
That sounds good.
Hello, welcome to Star Talk. Today, quaternions. What are they? How long have they been here?
That was pretty excellent.
Thank you. Quaternions are super cool, though. You guys should
Yeah.
definitely Google them.
Right.
It's like complex numbers, but in 4 dimensions, with one of those dimensions being the real numbers.
So how do you even know that a fourth dimension exists? Like, wouldn't there be a fifth dimension after that too? How many dimensions are there truly?
Well, like string theory says 11.
Infinite.
Well, no.
Infinite. What's the 11th dimension then? What would that be?
So it's going to be a little bit hard to explain on a podcast. There's a super good YouTube video, like visualizing the 10th dimension or visualizing the 11th dimension or whatever it's called. But let's say you have one dimension, right? You can go forward or backwards. So a straight line. And then the second dimension, you can go forward, backwards, and side to side. So it's as if you like turned the first dimension 90 degrees, and all of a sudden now you have the ability to go forward and backwards and also side to side. So now you're in the second dimension, and you can have a plane because you can see the new line that's just been made from the original. And then the third dimension is, of course, you go up with that. So if you're living on the second dimension, and you can just see as thin slices in the third dimension. So a cube would look like a square to you, right? And a ball would look like a small point that got into a circle, and then a bigger circle, and then as you passed that halfway point in the sphere, then it would go into a smaller circle and then back into a point. And then you go on with that similar kind of thinking. It's like, okay, so in the second dimension, the third dimension can only be described, it can only be seen in the second dimension, right? You can't go more than that. And so you continue with that logic, right? In the fourth dimension for us, we can only see slices of it. We can only see it passing as it's time, right? You can only see time moving. We can't see forward in time. We can't see backward in time. We can only see the current slice. Just as I can't see where you're going to be in 5 years or something. Hopefully not dead. Drink less Dr. Pepper, Rowan. And it just continues up like that. And then theoretically, string theorists say there's 10 or 11, I don't remember, 11 dimensions I think is what they had said. Continuing that logic, eventually you're going to get to every conceivable point and instant in time and space, and then what's beyond that we just don't really understand. So yeah.
Shoot. Okay.
I don't remember what your original question was.
I don't
Whatever I
either.
just said.
We were talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson. You emailed him. You were being a grown-up, so that's.
Oh yeah, I was being a big boy, and I emailed Neil deGrasse Tyson on his website, trying to schedule him, but and then that turned into Darwin doing a Neil deGrasse Tyson impression and saying something, and then going on into something else.
String theory.
The video will do much
yeah,
better
the string
than I could have
theory.
done.
Yeah.
Just like visualizing the 10th or 11th dimension or whatever it's called. I YouTube it. It's pretty sweet.
Nice.
If we're really good hosts, we'll like link it in
Yeah.
the description or something. I think that sounds really professional.
Yeah.
Liv's like tattooing Darwin's arm with the expo marker. What do you got on there? I
Be
can't
a
really
lot
see
to
it.
cut out.
It's okay.
There's an anchor that has 2 hearts and it says mom. I do
Okay.
love my mother. That's step number 1 in life. Love your mother.
Yeah. Can we just take a moment to appreciate Mama Nesheim?
Have you guys met Janine Nesheim?
Never.
Yeah.
You guys are missing
Your
out.
your life is
Your
less
life is-
worthy
yeah,
because you haven't met Janine Nesheim.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Rowan,
So-
you've met her, right, Rowan?
I
I'm sure
wish.
you have. Yeah. Yeah, I think you have.
Maybe we'll have her on
Yeah.
the podcast.
Have her on the podcast. She's
Yeah, you should.
I don't think I've ever met your guys' mom.
You're missing out. Your life is
Okay.
worse for it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that.
What are your guys' political views? Something we can disagree on.
Our political views.
What sort of like, so taxation, right?
Sure.
Do you believe in like having like hiking up the taxes on the top 1% where like the vast majority of the money is, or
How I see the 1% is to get to that point of wealth, you have to do something that is needed by the community because they're going to be buying your product, whether
Yeah.
it's your time or your energy or your literal product. And I figure that in itself is giving to the lives of the people. So I figure there should be a higher tax on them, but it should be on their capital, not just their wealth. So like their buildings are already going to be taxed more if they're in a production industry or their boat and cars and stuff. And so I figure they're already paying more. Maybe hike it up a little bit, but I do think that it should be less variable than it is. I think that they've kind of earned their status.
Yeah.
I think we need a sales tax up here. That's what I
Yeah.
think.
Sales.
That could be okay.
No, not
Yeah.
sales.
Well, they're taking out of our permanent fund dividend.
Yeah. Which I think is unfair, of course, but
Yeah.
I don't think sales tax is the way to do it.
my understanding
feel
was that
like-
we needed both. Like we needed to cut from the PFD as
Yeah.
well as have a sales tax.
But why? Why should we do that? Yeah, because
What's the purpose of the PFD? Like, why was it originally instated? It was
you think I know that?
well, there's part of the problem, right? It was with the oil industry. It's that they get to use our land and they pay a certain amount, and then the PFD is directly proportionate to the is it the general earnings, total profit, something with the oil companies, so that we can pay back to the Alaskans who are having their land abused by these oil
Or
companies.
like the environmental problems that occur from it,
Yeah, it's
like
a
water
payoff.
toxicity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But now we're having to maybe create a sales tax because we created the permanent fund dividend. So
Yeah, I think the PFD is a great thing. However, I think it should be used to benefit the state, and that I think if the population gets too entitled to the service, then the state is going to suffer as a whole.
Because then you just have a lot of
Yeah.
people coming up here because they just want free money each year.
Yeah,
Free money.
what good is the money if they're blowing it on alcohol and weed?
Yeah.
When that same money could be used to fund the education system or homeless housing. I know homelessness is a problem in Alaska, and I think with the PFD fund, it's billions of dollars. I think that could definitely do some good in the long run and make Alaska a better community. But that's what the money's for. It's for the Alaskans.
And since oil is a limited resource, we need to invest it in like another industry.
Absolutely.
Too, so
Yeah. And we're running out pretty quick. And what was it that we learned in Alaska Studies last year about like they were trying to drill into Anwar?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Ken's a super good resource too
Yeah.
for you students that are interested in this. Talk to Ken about PFD and oil companies.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ken.
Shout out to Ken. That would,
Yeah.
yeah.
Although
How do you guys feel about luxury tax?
Oh,
Because I'm a big supporter on luxury tax.
Depends on the luxury, I guess.
yeah, can you explain that a little bit more? Like what a luxury tax is?
Like things that you definitely don't need should be taxed, like expensive cars, like sports cars, or something that's just like really flashy, snowmobiles, cell phones, kind of things that you don't need necessarily. You're just buying them because like it's basically just a toy, or you're showing off, or you're flexing on everybody.
Right.
So
right.
you're
Little
basically
pay here.
taxing the rich because only the rich are able
flex
to
on
afford,
you.
flashy cars and snow machines. So it does the same as having like the taxing the 1% kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Although I do think it's funny you mentioned snowmobiles because that's not just a luxury for some parts of Alaska.
In
So-
some parts, yeah. Well, I mean, taxes aren't generalized to every part.
Yeah,
Like some
it'll
cities have different taxes.
definitely depend on what area you're in.
Right.
Yeah,
But
of course. It's like-
Speaking of that, I read some really weird news article, but there are about 8 people in the world that are more rich than the lower class, like the lower class people of the world. So like 8 people in the United States or anywhere else, I forgot where because it was a while back, but they're more rich than the entire population of the lower class, which is just insane to me.
Yeah.
Because that's like, where does that end? Because people like making $100,000 a year, like could they be considered lower class if those people are like making that much money? It's you don't know where it exactly stops, but you kind of know where it starts.
What do you do to get into those top 8? Like what were their
Wall Street.
Wall Street. Amazon.
Go back to
Bezos now, I think, is
time
the richest
travel
person in
time
the
travel to the back like a little bit before the 80s and invest in Apple stocks, and then you'll
Right.
be
Yeah.
just rich.
right? Dang. I mean, and then there's a point where you're rich. You're so rich that your money makes money because of investments and stuff. And
Exactly.
Yep.
Spend money
the
to make
dream.
money. Yeah. So I mean, I guess it'd be beneficial for those who are like more rich and all the people complaining about how we're more taxing on the poor than we are the rich, because that's just what you hear anymore. But it really depends. I think the only way for that to really work is if like they did a what are they called? The things where they take like this amount of like they count how many people are living in a certain area. What are those called? Like census.
Census surveys.
Yeah, if they did like a census surveys on people's income, but they like kept actual track of that, just to see where, like that's the only way I could see it without having any complaints. And that's really what it is anymore, is that you have to categorize these things. Otherwise it'll receive criticism, because you have these people that are trying to buy like, I don't know, their kids something, and they're not too high on the income market, but they're getting by. So it's just one of those things. One thing that I heard earlier about Darwin talking about like marketing and stuff, just kind of like moving away from the politics topic, but like marketing is something that I've been realizing a lot now lately, like because I kind of like cable TV kind of switched away from that to go to like Netflix and stuff and all the online streaming services. But you go back to cable and you just see what kind of ads they're spewing out, and you see them on YouTube, and you see them on whatever, you hear them or something, and it's just none of it makes sense to me anymore. Like, what are you advertising? Like, what are you trying to achieve? Because you see these commercials and they're like 25 seconds of just random like family time stuff, like a Coke commercial. Like, you don't know what they're advertising. You just see this family like enjoying themselves, and then it cuts to their neighbors having fun, and then at the very end, it's just like, share a Coke. It's like, what? What did I just watch? And I know it's about, because then I saw today this kind of like ad for a chiropractic industry, and you just see this postcard, and all you see is this elephant flying up in the air with a bunch of balloons attached to it, and you're like, what? But then you realize that it's all about attention getting. It's all about attracting your eye to something that's obscene, and it doesn't make any sense. But then you look at the postcard, and the text is like blurred out. So it's like this faint green text that you can't read on this blue sky with this elephant just floating in the air with a bunch of balloons. And
Well, I think that just might be poor marketing.
yeah,
It's just to start with.
because it definitely got my attention, but it's just one of those things where you just don't know what you're going for. You don't know what you're trying to, you don't know what you're trying to sell, and it's just insane.
I wonder how they like decide to do like certain commercials and such, and why they even try to do commercials, because it feels like to me from a consumer's perspective that it's not really, that doesn't seem like an effective way to sell things. It's like ads on cable TV, but clearly they do it so it works.
I think it's become just pure comedy at this point.
Well, I know with cable TV, especially here in Alaska, there's kind of like a market that's been grabbed by big companies, and just a few of them, like GCI, I think, is one of the few cable providers here. Otherwise, you have to turn to satellite TV, and a big portion of the people in Alaska can't get the satellites because of their location on either the hillside or even down towards East Anchorage area. They can't get the clearance on some of those satellites they would like to get, and so they go to cable TV as their alternative. And so there's a huge market being grabbed for advertising because of Alaska and its population and positions. While Netflix is going to be a good kind of step away from those advertisements if that's not what you want. I know Netflix has talked about having advertisements positioned halfway through their services, which is going to just turn into another commercial thing. Less of them, sure. However, it's still going to be the same kind of advertising that you're going to get.
Well, yeah, because public broadcasting was all about advertising. It was the only way for them to survive. And then they introduced cable TV, which was this service that you would pay extra for, and there were no commercials on there. It was just completely uninterrupted TV. But then as time went by and everybody started buying cable, the public broadcasting services just got obsolete. And so they were like, well, how are we going to make more money off this as everybody's just already bought this? So that's why they started running ads on it. And so it's just a progressive thing where we get something new and they say that it's just completely free, or advertisement free anyway, and then they have to make more money off of it because everybody has it, and then the prices get cheaper because everybody has it, but then they have to find some newer way to make money.
But now with like YouTube, you can buy just like pay a fee and you won't see any advertisements.
Yeah.
So they still make their money, but
Well,
no,
it's
there's
monthly,
no advertisements.
and it's another, because like really, how many subscription-based platforms are you subscribed to? Like, you gotta do what for any like console internet access? You have to pay a monthly subscription to play online with your friends, and for Netflix, you're paying for a monthly subscription. For Hulu, you're paying for a monthly subscription. For Amazon Prime, you're paying $100 a year to not only get your 2-day shipping, but also your Amazon Prime subscription. Like,
Which I highly recommend. Always buy Prime.
Yeah,
I'm not sponsored by Amazon, of course, but if I was, I'd be very happy.
Prime students half off. And
Is it
get
Prime
stuff
student,
free.
it's half off.
I think the best part is we don't even get the 2-day shipping up here. So we get the 4-day shipping
Yeah.
or the 5-day shipping. 'Cause-
Joke's on you guys. I get it basically the day of.
But isn't Amazon like just insane? Like, where are the drones? Do they do those yet?
Not yet. They're planning to.
No, not yet.
Okay.
But I mean, how are they going to do that up
They
here?
did do the thing where like you leave your door unlocked and they deliver it in your house. They started right.
That was a poor marketing plan. That was.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think there's a market for it later. Like especially housing units that have a secured front, and then from getting into that kind of welcome area that's secured, you can get into your apartment from a central.
Well, that's the thing, because I saw a video on it, and it was this news station that did this, and they had their one reporter get this product, and so what it was is it was just another lock for your door that your Amazon shipping service would just open, so it would be, you know, your package is inside now and everything's safe. But then like they started realizing that these Amazon workers were just being careless, basically. And so what they would do is they'd shut the door, but they wouldn't lock it. And like, or some people would like try to shut the door, but they didn't know how to lock it. Or some people would shut the door and it'd just open again, and then they'd just leave. So it's this thing. It's this other thing about just complete security and making sure that everything is safe. But now you're letting these workers come into your home to deliver your package instead of it getting stolen outside.
Although slowly, like they're trying to remove like human error and stuff, because don't they use like robots in their where they have like all the things and then they package them? I forget what they're called.
Like postal facilities.
I guess, yeah, because they were having problems with people working there too, and they would go like grab packages off the shelf, and they'd be doing that, and the working conditions were just very poor.
Automation. How do you guys feel about automation?
I feel like
You guys are going to be like straight on that.
yeah,
tipping
we're
point.
going to be in the middle of all that. And we're like in our 30s. It's when it's going to start progressively getting bigger and bigger industry, and it's one of those things where you just see it and you don't know what's going to happen, because it's going to benefit us, sure, but what kind of measures are we going to take to make sure that it's not like, you know, pollution based autonomy, or something that makes it so everyone is homeless and they can't work. But these robots were brought in as like this thing to help us not work and to help us make our lives easier. But then everybody who had these basic jobs that a robot can replace, they're out on the street. It's going to be like Star Trek, where people get paid to live, and they don't have to worry about currency.
Like a guaranteed basic income. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I think. I can't remember the country that has it implemented now.
What? That exists already?
I think it was a test in Switzerland with a couple thousand participants.
Well, you know about tests in Switzerland.
Well,
What?
They don't end well, I'll tell you what.
historically, you know, I think the guaranteed basic income, when we get to that point of automation, is going to really be the driving factor. Because then people will have no need to work, but they'll have money to spend on their hobbies. And if they have constructive hobbies, I think that could really lead
Everybody's going to have
in a good direction.
Everybody's going to have PFD, just to
Yeah.
live.
Yep.
And yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that if, like, you know, robots do take over the workforce for basic needs and services, because obviously we're going to have like android maids and stuff. They're going to like take care of our grandmas and everybody who needs help. So it's one of those things where you don't need a human to do that for you anymore, because you have this robot that's doing it perfectly each and every time, and they can make sure that you get the service that you need. And obviously there's going to be some glitches at the start, but really it won't take that much time to progress to where everything's just run, every simple task that is needed to be done in our society, everything that, like from collecting garbage to providing us food, that's going to be done by robots.
Mm.
Do you think it should be done? Because I know at OSU there is student jobs for students who are on the work study programs, which is a federal program, typically, which allows you to work for the university and you kind of get a tuition cut because of it. And so, you know, it's like you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours kind of thing. And some of the jobs there are already automated. And is there a point where we will choose not to automate the jobs just because we would prefer humans have that opportunity? An example is someone who answers the phone, right? The Google Cloud has gotten such a good neural net to answer those, and it sounds like a human that you're talking to, and it's really adaptive, and yet we're still hiring people to do that for a job that we're paying them $11 an hour to do. So is there a purpose to that when we have those jobs that are already automated?
It's obviously it's always going to be a hit or miss for everybody. Everybody's going to have a different opinion on it, no matter what. So it's really just going to be whether, like, there'll probably be a market for this kind of thing, which is the robots, and then there'll be a market which is like restaurant, humans only, like that type of thing, like man-made food, because people like stuff when it's handmade, when it's done by an actual person. People like to talk to technical support, to an actual person. Nobody likes to talk to a robot when they're trying to figure out how to fix something of theirs, trying to troubleshoot it. So again, like once we get to the point where robots are going to be able to do that and no one's going to get frustrated by it, people are going to be happy. But then there will be the market for like just people who need jobs, but there'll also be that sort of thing where everybody is going to be able to go to like college and get better education, and they won't have to worry about trying to survive on their own. They won't have to worry about trying to survive while they're learning. So it'll be, they'll get the exact education that they need from colleges, and then they'll have everything that needs to be done to help them live will be done by robots.
Well, and the tricky part comes to when, like, not everybody has to work, and there's still jobs that need to be done by humans, but nobody wants to do them. Like, and not so no one is required to work because there's the guaranteed basic income, but we still need people to do certain jobs. Like, I can't think of an example, but
Well, we're going to need someone to run our governments. And that's always going to be something that a human does, because you, like, I mean, I could see some kind of robot that has been like, that is better than the human mind to run a government and make the right decisions each and every time, and, like, you know, correctly predict what is going to happen. That sort of thing. That's the only way I can really see any kind of robot like leading a government system. Like, I can, like, obviously we have computers implemented to keep track of these things, but it's really a person that has to make these calls until, again, we can either match or exceed human intelligence with artificial intelligence. Then there's nothing we can do with robots to, you know, make it so our government is run by robots.
that's a long way off.
Huh?
That's a long way off.
Yeah. Yeah, it won't happen anytime soon. We're going to have to reach a major technical advancement before that can happen. We're going to have to find something that can support that kind of processing power, because, you know, I it's probably not true, but I heard that we could store like however many trillions of terabytes in our mind, or like I don't know, something like that. But it's obviously not true, because we reach a limit to our memory. There's stuff that we just forget, and otherwise we would have the best memories on the planet, and we would remember everything from when we were first born to now. But I don't remember me being 0 years old and doing stuff then, obviously, because my mind wasn't developed yet.
Well, also it works a little bit differently in computers too.
Yeah.
Because all of computers' data, it's there in its entirety. Whereas we store simple pieces that we can then use to pull back information that we might not have stored already.
Yeah, we just summarize everything.
Yeah. We're summarizing machines.
Yeah, it's like me looking at a certain object that reminds me of something like from very long ago, and so it just kind of like sparks in your brain and makes you remember these things.
Wait, so are we saying like the human method is more efficient than in computers, or it's
No,
just different?
I'm saying
I
that
would say it's just different.
for
Okay.
like example, for me, if I did something in the past and then I completely forgot about it, but then I see this one object that kind of like sparks my memory and reminds me of this thing, like that's what I'm saying. But a computer, you can pull that up at any moment because it just kind of records that data and it's there. Unless it were to get wiped or corrupted, it's still there and it's going to be there.
How are those tattoos coming?
Beautifully. I think I'll have to take this mouse design and make it real.
Oh yeah, I forgot. As per Nesheim tradition, I'll have to get a tattoo.
Yeah,
I guess.
Get a tattoo.
Yeah.
I'll get a tattoo.
Everyone.
All right.
What-
Squad's tattoo.
What's yours? Right there.
Well, okay. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, so let me give some background info for those who haven't seen Darwin's arms. On his wrist, underneath his left hand, he has a tattoo of something. Explain it.
It's my personal philosophy that the most important development that humans have ever made was bread, and this is because we're hunters and gatherers, right? And here we are. We're nomadic. We're following the animals. We're getting the resources we need. And then we come across the problem that we've always had of, well, our resources start to go bad, right? And so when we grow our own resources, then that gives us the ability to store them, and so that we can remain more together, closely packed. We can start building communities. And so when we get these resources, we can put them together, and we can store them for longer periods of time. And what that causes is settlements to grow. And the settlements allow for accumulation of knowledge, which is super cool, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to be at a table and speaking into a microphone, which is a computer. And so it's bread, right? And so the tattoo is a glucose molecule and a CO2 molecule. And the glucose, the yeast takes the sugar, which is glucose, and then produces the CO2. And the CO2 is what causes bread to rise. And so,
Right.
there you go.
That was
Among other things.
probably the greatest tangent I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and the first breads, of course, aren't going to be risen breads. They're going to be flat breads because yeast, but still, it's the idea. The bread.
You want to know what I wanted a tattoo of?
What did you want a tattoo of?
I just wanted it on my arm right here, and it's just a smiley face, and that's it. Like not even with the circle head, just 2 dots and a line.
What's stopping you?
Nothing.
You could brand yourself.
Still think I like Darwin's better. That's
Well,
a
yeah.
good conversation starter.
That's why I got it.
Yeah.
It's like my personal philosophy. And also
What
we can talk
tattoos?
about it.
What tattoos that? It's bread.
It's bread. It's absolutely bread.
So what are you thinking, Chad? What kind of tattoo are you gonna get?
I don't know. Something a little discreet, so I'd still be able to get a job and everything. I was thinking Hell's Angels written on my forehead, but we'll see how that goes.
Probably like McDonald's at the least, maybe Burger King at most.
McDonald's. The upside down W.
What?
McDonald's.
Well, for International Women's Day, McDonald's turned some locations their
Oh
golden arch
yeah,
ends
Really?
upside down for Women's
Upside
Day.
down?
For International Women's Day.
That's
Upside down.
Is that today?
No.
Okay.
This was a while ago.
Yeah, this is an old meme.
And McDonald's had done that. There was some political kickback. For some reason, I didn't bother reading the political articles. I know that some people were upset over it. I think it was because they believed that McDonald's was making light of, because during that time there was political issues with current president, specifically in regards to women, and so they thought that McDonald's was making light of Women's Day. But no, they did that as like a celebration of Women's Day. They turned all their golden arches upside down for a W.
You ever watch
Welcome to McDonald's.
Did you ever watch The Founder
Mm-mm.
with Michael Keaton?
I haven't seen it.
It's the whole like history of McDonald's. It's like it's not a bad movie, I gotta say. It's not really a documentary, but kind of is. It documents the history of McDonald's, but it's more of like a theatrical production. And
Okay.
I would recommend it. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
Shout out to The Founder, starring Michael Keaton, also known as Vulture from Spider-Man: Homecoming. For those who don't know, who Michael Keaton is, or if you're some of the older fans that we might have, Grandma talking to you, Batman, the 1990s Batman, something like that.
Movie or
Movie,
series?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Adam West who did the TV show in the 60s. I don't know why I know that, but I do.
Because Adam West.
Right.
All
Handy
right.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Good conversation starter.
Well, Jacob, do you have any more questions to ask these two?
Any more questions? I do think it was funny that we were supposed to be interviewing Darwin, and then we were supposed to be interviewing Chad, and we really did, I think, kind of a poor job of that. But
You know what? I think it worked out in the end.
it was a good conversation.
I think it's been fun. Do you two have any other questions to ask us at all? I don't know, anything about the podcast? Anything about that?
What inspired
Not
you?
necessarily. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
What inspired you to do a podcast?
Well, what inspired me was Jacob's nice words of his idea. So his idea, basically, he just looked at Michael and Augie's podcast before we did our passage.
I was like, oh yeah, that looks like fun.
He's like, yeah, that looks pretty cool.
Well, okay, and I was joking. I was talking to Rowan on the phone one night, and he was asking me about passages, and he asked me what I was going to do, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast with you. That was a joke. That was not my plan at all. It was still not my plan when school started, and now we're doing a podcast, and it's going all right.
I really like talking. I really enjoy it.
I can tell.
Anyway, my throat is currently dying, but I really enjoy talking. I really enjoy having discussions. Now, obviously, like, it's kind of difficult when you're trying to do like the stage performance type deal, and it's kind of hard to be real with each other because you're talking in front of this microphone while being recorded, and you know that. And it's one of those things where you just try to like act real, but while acting real, it's forced and it doesn't sound real at all.
So maybe I'll be in charge of the recording next time, and I'll just partway through a conversation, I'll click the record button.
I can do that at any point in time.
Yeah,
But
well,
like I really enjoy this kind of thing. I used to do like YouTube and stuff like that, and I used to like video edit, and it was really fun. It was a really fun experience for me. And so something like this I thought would be, I still think is really cool to do, and I think it's really cool. So I took Jacob's words that he calls a joke, and I turned them into something that I would like to do possibly in the future. And I created a stupid name, Steller Productions Podcast, which I guess I'll change in the future sooner than later. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of wanted to do this as for fun and maybe as a future career.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you certainly can. I mean, there's a lot of different types of podcasts out there, but like there's the Joe Rogan Experience. That's a very popular one. You were listening to that.
I listened to multiple podcasts before I started this just to get an idea of what we should do, but that obviously didn't work. So,
So Chad and Darwin, are there any podcasts you guys like to listen to?
I'm not typically a podcast person, but
yeah,
I'd be interested in starting more. You said the Rogan Experience.
Joe Rogan Experience.
Rogan
It's
Experience.
it's like
he's a funny guy
it's not clean, just
No.
for
the younger audience out there.
but
It's got an explicit warning on iTunes, but it's definitely worth checking into. Of course, there are other podcasting experiences, like not just talking to one another, but storytelling, like the Night and Vale or something, whatever that was called.
I did
Night Vale.
listen to
Welcome
that.
to Night Vale.
Yeah, welcome to Night Vale. So obviously, you can do anything with this kind of thing. It can be a War of the Worlds type experience with Orson Welles back in the 40s,
Yep.
something like that, 38.
Caused some hysteria.
right.
Yeah, that was a fun time. But I really enjoy this kind of stuff, and it's something that I would like to do in the future. But I wanted to take my friends' joking words and turn them into something real. Chad, do you have anything else to say?
Not really. If you want some like examples of a good podcast where it's just kind of like it's sporadic talking and kind of topics, I suggest Neebs Cast. That's Neebs Cast. It's just a group of guys, kind of like what we're doing. They're just talking about whatever kind of pops up and some comments on some of their YouTube videos and whatnot. So it might just be handy to look at.
I think the cool thing is we can have you guys on at any point in time with this program.
Yeah.
Right here. So
Yeah.
Yep.
if you guys ever want to be back on, we got the technology to do it.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. My schedule's pretty empty for the most part, so hit me up any day.
Sounds good. Any closing remarks, Darwin? We'll start with you.
Thanks for having me on your first episode. I'm excited to see how it's edited. I'm excited to see how it turns out. Maybe if I like it, I'll become a listener for your podcast.
All right, and Chad, what about you? Anything else to say for your final remarks?
No, same thing. Just thanks for having me. Go Vandal. Yeah, college is great. Go to college if you can.
All right.
Stay in school, my friends.
All right.
How about that?
Sounds good. Jacob?
I'm not excited to edit this, and I'm glad we got to have you two on the podcast. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
And I'd like to also personally thank you both for being on, as both good friends and as both good talkers. I would like to personally thank you too, Darwin, for taking the time to come to Steller and actually
no problem.
be a part, and Darwin for taking a little time out of his day to come on the show.
There are 2 Darwins, yes.
There are 2 Darwins.
He's the younger.
Hold on.
It's fine.
Hold on.
Keep it. He's my idol.
If I believe his graduation speech went something like, "Hi, I'm Chad."
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you're
that's
not too
true.
far off.
True.
Chad.
Almost there.
Yes.
Yeah, I always get these two mixed up. They're always
Yeah. We sound like identical or something.
obviously. Nah, it's just it's one of those things where you just get both of you in your head and you say the wrong one each time and you say the same name twice. Anyway, I would like to personally thank Darwin and Chad for being on our podcast, and thank you to all of those who listened today. It's been a fun first episode, fun first recording.